Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, January the 13th, 2025. I'm David Menzies and my co-host. Well, folks, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Do you know that today is National Rubber Ducky Day? And my co-host used to love rubber duckies. And then Canada's sesquicentennial came along in 2017, and a giant rubber duck was brought in to celebrate it, which is odd. But what was even more odd was the six-figure bill sent to the Canadian taxpayer for that enormous rubber ducky. So my co-host went from singing, "Oh, rubber ducky," to saying, "What the duck? She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid." How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm doing great, David. I'm glad you didn't go with scary. Sheila Gunreed. I'm really glad because remember Scary Sherry? She had her moments when she was sensational scary. She went back and forth. You know what? Depending on the day, I think I do too. It's
You know,
also sorry, go ahead,
Oh,
David.
you raise a really good point. As a kid, I grew up on Marvel Comics, and even back then, I always wondered who gets the descriptor because, it wasn't just Iron Man or Hulk or Spider Man. It was the Invincible Iron Man, the
Right.
Incredible Hulk, the Amazing Spider Man, the Mighty Thor. If you had to choose a descriptor for yourself, Sheila, if you were a human comic book, what would it be?
Look, I already work here. You don't have to give me the weird interview questions, okay? Like, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? I just prefer to be interesting, thought-provoking. I wanna look interesting, I wanna sound interesting, I wanna have interesting ideas instead of the homogenous, unskinned boiled potatoes of a CBC panel. If you've watched At Issue lately, they're just a bunch of gray blobs with the similar opinions.
Well, you know
Um,
what? I think for me, keeping with the rubber duck theme, Sheila, it would be Howard the Duck, who didn't have, I don't believe, a descriptor, but he had a subtitle,
no.
which was Trapped in a World He Never Made.
You know what? I used to love that movie when I was a kid. We
The
had it on
movie?
VHS. Yeah, Howard the Duck.
No.
Yeah, and we had it on VHS for some reason. I think I watched it till I wore it out. That and Revenge of the Nerds for some reason. I don't know why I remember those movies so explicitly. I probably shouldn't have been watching the second one. Anyway, we should get on to what we're
Yes.
talking about today. It is also National Public Radio Broadcasting Day. I
Ooh.
remember I used to subject myself to CBC cross country checkup and there was another thing. I can't remember what it was, but I would just then randomly live tweet the things that they were saying just to remind myself and the people who follow me on Twitter at the time, now X, why we should not have a public broadcaster
Oh,
because it was
brilliant.
just so bad. It was just, I was like, what is this Canadian content? And it was just about some sort of, I don't know, homosexual organization in South Dakota fighting against gender norms or something. I'm like, why are we paying for this? Anyway,
Now,
we
now
speak.
cross
Go ahead.
country checkup, is that the one that's 2 hours of radio, but there's 10 producers on the payroll?
That's all of it. What are you talking about? Listen to the credits of the CBC podcasts are actually pretty good. I cannot recommend, for example, hunting Warhead enough, but I think it was made in conjunction with the BBC. Take that for what you will. But the last like 7 minutes of the show are the credits, and I'm like, do you guys not know how to use like odd Audacity or any other program? Why do you need so many producers? Get a microphone, get a researcher or two, and just start talking. No, like 7 minutes worth of producers. Anyway, we're wasting time. Speaking of 7 minutes in
What
and
else do
having
we
done
do?
nothing.
It's
Yeah, I know.
it's kind of like, George Carlin's remark about a dog. What does a dog do on its day off? It can't sit around do nothing all day. That's its job.
Yeah, mine is sitting around doing nothing right under my desk. I'm worried she's gonna let the cat in because she can nose the sliding barn doors to the studio, and then if that little cat comes in, he's gonna be all over the desk. Anyway, we should tell everybody what we're doing today because we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. The world is wild. My Premier Danielle Smith continues to act as both the de facto foreign affairs minister and quite possibly the prime minister of this country. And I think we should all be real grateful for it. But I should tell everybody what we're doing. This is the Rebel News live stream. It's on Monday and on Friday, or the first work day of the week, although every day is a work day. When you work at Rebel News, that's not a slight at the company. It's just actually a slight at our peers in the media landscape. But we are streaming currently on YouTube and on Rumble. This is where you'll get your news of the day, completely unvarnished and unscripted and often unprepared, as you can tell. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for sticking it out over there. We've got, I think, last time I checked, 1.7 million sets of eyeballs over there. So we don't want to abandon you. And, frankly, YouTube doesn't want us there. So that's why we remain. But we are completely demonetized over there. So if you want to support a platform that cares about free speech and allows you to support us out of the goodness of your heart, unlike what Justin Trudeau makes you do with the mainstream media, just reaching into your pocket to pick it, to give it to the likes of the unpeeled, boiled potatoes of CBC's At Issues panel. On Rumble, you can leave us a paid chat. It's called a Rumble Rant. It's over the $5 US cutoff. We will read it on air, but don't let that be the bar for entry, because we frequently read the chats that come in under that $5 US cutoff. It's just that sometimes time does not always permit. However, we do our best to make time for you, because you make your time for us. Okay, David, I think that's it. Let's get into the threats to the Canadian economy, because we're run by idiots.
Yeah, and I think what's getting a lot of traction here, I don't know about Wild Rose Country, Sheila, but Danielle Smith went down to Mar-a-Lago, and she was also doing some segments with Kevin O'Leary and Dr. Jordan Peterson. And I can tell you, listen, I don't know why I subject myself to this. It's not that I'm into dominatrixes or anything like that, but I do listen to mainstream radio from time to time, because you got to know what the other side is chattering about. And Sheila, I can tell you, they were losing their minds about Danielle Smith and Kevin O'Leary and Dr. Peterson. And the ongoing narrative, if you can imagine, is, why should we listen to O'Leary and Peterson? They don't even spend most of their time in Canada anymore.
There's a reason for that.
Jeez. Thank you. But and my point is, Sheila, who cares about that? I think it's content and quality over postal code. And I mean, Sheila, we'll run a clip.
Hang on for a second here. So the Liberals, who gave us Michael Ignatieff, Mr. He Didn't Come Back for You, and Mark Carney, does he even live in Canada? Does he have a Canadian postal code these days? These guys are uptight because we're listening to successful Canadians right now who fled our country thanks to Justin Trudeau's policies. I think they might be experts on the reason why the economy's failing, because they left so their personal one didn't.
Brilliant point. And again, the double standard, what you're saying about Carney, what you're saying about, what did they call Ignatieff again at the time? Oh yeah, the visiting professor. Because
he looked like Sam the Eagle, by the way. Every time I saw him, I'm like, that man looks like a Muppet. But yeah, I mean, the whole successful Conservative campaign was, he didn't come back for you. And he sure as hell didn't, because as soon as he didn't become prime minister, he was out of here. So fast.
And if I may, Sheila, not that I hold grudges, but yeah, I kind of do. I made a bet with a panelist at the Sun News Network at the time, Marianne Mead Ward. Nice lady, but oh my goodness, more vacuous than a black hole. And it was $100 bet, okay, that Ignatieff, if he loses, this is before the election, he is out of Canada on the first class express plane there is, which was true. And she welched on the bet. Anyway, she went on to become the mayor of Burlington. So Marianne Mead Ward, you still owe me $100. I guess with interest and cost of living, it's probably like $250 today, right, Sheila?
Yeah. And she can thank her buddy Justin Trudeau for that inflationary result on her bet with you. Let's just go through Danielle Smith's X post here on this, because she pretty smart. She went down, she met with Trump the night before at Mar-a-Lago, and then she went to the golf resort where Trump does a lot of his best wheeling and dealing. I bet you Danielle Smith has read The Art of the Deal, unlike so many of the people opining on what Donald Trump is doing and his strategy here. But the first thing I want to point out, can we just scroll down to the photo, then we'll go up to what the post says on Danielle Smith's post. There's a photo of her. And Mr. Wonderful. No, it's not that. There we go. The first thing I want to point out is the nylons. I cannot wait for these liberals to lose so that I don't have to look at Chrystia Freeland's unnyloned legs anymore. That woman has no idea of decorum. And look, I love a good bare leg. I'm a bare-legged kind of lady. I hate nylons. But if you ever see me out and about at a fancy function, you won't catch a bare leg. And so Freeland will go on stage at these international events, some of which she's hosting. For example, the Media Freedom Conference in London a few years ago, just her skirt's right up because nobody has told her what size she actually wears. And then it's like her butt cheeks are like right on the seat. Then she crosses her legs or kicks her legs up. And she never met a hemline that was too short that she didn't love, and that she never wears nylons. And I just want to shout out to Premier Smith for wearing nylons. God love her for that.
Well, you know, Sheila, not being female nor identifying as one, I don't really get the whole nylon thing. Don't ask me how I know this, but waitresses at Hooters, that is a requirement. They have to wear nylons for some reason. And I think they got pretty good legs in addition to other parts of the anatomy. And
you haven't been in a Hooters lately. I'm going to have to tell you haven't been at a Hooters lately. I have been, and it's not the Hooters you remember. But anyways, let's get into Danielle Smith's post. So she says, over the last 24 hours, I had the opportunity to meet President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago last night in his golf club this morning. We had a friendly and constructive conversation during which I emphasized the mutual importance of the US-Canadian energy relationship, and specifically how hundreds of thousands of American jobs, this is true, we also sell you reduced rate, discounted oil. And he said, she said, I was supposed to have similar discussions, or I was also able to have similar discussions with key allies of the incoming administration, and was encouraged to hear their support of a strong energy and security relationship with Canada. So those would be the Western governors, most of whom are Republican. On behalf of Albertans, Premier Smith, not on behalf of Albertans, on behalf of all Canadians, I will continue to engage in constructive dialogue and diplomacy with the incoming administration and elected federal and state officials from both parties, and will do all I can to further Alberta's and Canada's interests. The United States and Canada are both proud and independent nations with one of the most important security alliances on earth and the largest economic partnership in history. We need to preserve our independence while we grow this critical partnership for the benefit of Canadians and Americans for generations to come. So she's down there being friendly, making sure the Trump administration likes her, making sure they see her smiley, cooperative face, driving home the fact that we sell Canadian crude to the Americans at a discounted price, and that is thanks to Justin Trudeau blocking export pipelines. We're shoehorned into a monopoly with the United States because of that, and just reminding them of that. Like, look, even our export pipeline that was built by the federal government unnecessarily for an inflated rate for like almost 2 times the cost, because the federal government wouldn't enforce the law. Trans Mountain, that is sure, it's an offshore pipeline, but that just gets on a tanker ship and then goes to Cherry Grove or Cherry Point in the United States, a Cherry Point refinery there. So it just still ends up in the United States anyway. So I'm glad she's there. I'm glad she's being friendly and doing her best to save the Canadian economy. And I think if Trump does tariff inbound Canadian oil, it'll raise the price of gas in the Midwest, and nobody's going to want that, including him.
So the question is, Sheila, and I think it is still a question until Trump takes office, is this for real, these tariffs? Or you mentioned the art of the deal. Are these negotiating tactics? I
think in some sectors, it is a negotiating tactic, I think, but in other sectors, I think you guys are going to get hammered. And it has a lot to do with people not being smart enough to do what Danielle Smith is doing right now. Like, why wasn't Doug Ford down there with her? They could have shown a united front, even though that's a sort of Chinese meddling organization, but they could have been together at Mar-a-Lago arguing for their respective industries. Like, why isn't Doug Ford down there doing everything he can to save the Canadian auto industry. Why? Instead, he's sort of being confrontational and mean-mouthy in the same way that the Liberals are.
And it's quite a good industry to save, Sheila.
You
I
would
believe the last
think.
time I spoke to Dan McTague, former Liberal MP, and he used to have a position at Toyota Canada. I think we were up to 60-70% of vehicles made in Canada are destined for US export. So yeah, this, to make your point, maybe Ford should get more proactive on this, as opposed to just, I know they're running ads. I don't know how effective those ads are. I don't know who the audience is meant to be for those Government of Ontario ads. And well, that's a real fail, I would argue, when you don't know who your audience is and you don't know what the call to action is. But you bring up a point, Sheila. I'm getting sort of off on a tangerine here, but why isn't Ford seen with Danielle Smith? Why isn't Ford seen with Pierre Poilievre? He's always seen with blackface. And
Yes, exactly.
he's
And his friend
ostensibly
Christy.
supposed to be a conservative.
Yeah, you'd wonder. I don't know. I mean, even if the Trump administration folks don't like Doug Ford, he could have had a relationship broker going down there with Danielle Smith and showing his face and a lot of times these deals with Trump come down to whether he likes you or not. And it seems as though they really like Danielle Smith. Now, I really like her too. She's a personable lady and she's
Me
pretty
too.
funny. I think she's the kind of lady who would get along with Donald Trump because she understands his sense of humor. However, I'm not sure Doug Ford even has one. Let's go.
And by the way, Sheila, before you throw to that clip, I have a much lower benchmark for premiers. If I approach a premier and he or she does not phone the police, you get one big thumbs up from me. Okay.
We got lots of sit-down time with our premier out here in Alberta. Let's go to the CTV News clip because it feels as though the Liberals are actively trying to sabotage anything that Premier Smith is trying to do.
Unbelievable.
And it goes, I think, to Ezra's theory that the Liberals would much rather campaign against Donald Trump as the economy killer than they would against Poilievre. Let's hear from Jolie because she says everything's on the table, but I'll tell you, sister, it ain't. Stay in your lane, lady. Anyways, I'll be quiet.
These tariffs are applied as he has threatened them to be, which we don't know the case. He hasn't announced that, the specifics of it, but he's saying 25%. I was interviewing 6 economists, the top 6 economists, the chief ones for all the big banks the other day. And collectively, they said the hit to the economy, we're looking to the tunes of millions of jobs. You're looking at a 3% contraction and essentially an immediate recession. So it's in that vein, against that backdrop, I ask you about what retaliation would look like. Mm-hmm. Is your government prepared to cut off supplies of energy, for example, to the United States?
What I can tell you is everything is on the table. And that's the conversation we will have, the Prime Minister, Minister LeBlanc, and myself with the premiers next week. And that's a conversation also I'll take to Republican senators and key Republican decision makers in Washington next week. Because this is indeed a decision that would be taken by President-elect Trump that would have devastating impacts on Canadians. And so for those who are watching us right now, it is important to understand that the threat is real and we're acting on it.
I think that's good.
And that's why I'm calling
Okay, I think that's good because she said something completely erroneous there, and Premier Danielle Smith quickly corrected her. So she basically said everything's on the table, including cutting off the supply of energy to the United States. Energy is not within the federal jurisdiction. So she thinks that she is going to either outbound tariff Alberta oil and gas, Saskatchewan oil and gas, or maybe even, what do you guys produce out there? Electricity. Outbound tariff Ontario electricity. Premier Smith had a quick response to that. It's the last clip there, Olivia Efron, Premier Smith warning the feds to stay in their lanes. Danielle Smith loves a good lawsuit as much as our boss does. So, and she's pretty winning against the federal government. So let's hear from her.
Yesterday, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly talked about, was asked specifically if in negotiations with Trump, Canada would consider an energy embargo on the United States. And I want to, as leverage, what do you think, what do you make of what she said?
Well, first of all, it's oil and gas is owned by the provinces, principally Alberta, and we won't stand for that. And you should never, ever threaten something you cannot do. And I would encourage the minister to look at a map of where Line 5 goes. Line 5 comes down through Michigan to get to Sarnia. And then that feeds the bulk of the supply needed for Ontario and connects with Line 9, which feeds the bulk of the product needed for Quebec. And so if you cut off that line, you are cutting off Ontario and Quebec. So I would encourage the ministers to either understand how our integrated pipeline system works and start looking at ways that we would be able to practically respond, because there's no point in making empty threats that cannot be executed on. So there are other things, I'm sure, that that we'll all talk about collectively, but let's just remember how integrated our markets are with the Enbridge system, the TC Energy system, that we have a product going back and forth across the border every single day. And we cannot do anything that harms Canadians in such a substantial way. So I just don't take that as a credible threat. I'm sure that the US administration won't either. So we should talk about things that we actually can do as opposed to empty threats.
If they were to proceed down that path for some reason, what would be Alberta's response?
Well, they will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our US trade partners. We just won't stand for that. And I don't think Ontarians and Quebec should stand for that as well. They shouldn't be standing by and listening while a federal minister talks about cutting off their energy supply. That's just not on. That makes no sense.
You know, Sheila, isn't it wonderful to see an adult in the room who understands the issues, opining
Completely.
honestly about it? And first of all, I just want to go back to Minister Joly when she begins her response to Vashi Capello's with the phrase, everything is on the table. That phrase, thanks to Sellout Singh, has been completely bastardized because for the last several weeks, he has been stating all the time with his opening remarks, everything is on the table. Well, not everything, because, Sellout Singh isn't going to cast a non-confidence vote against these Liberals, which he has proven over and over again. So everything is on the table. It's kind of like when you see a consumer product new and improved, it means nothing anymore. It's neither new and it probably hasn't been improved. But I will say this, Sheila, I think what the Premier is getting at, and I totally believe this, if the provinces are going to get into a trade or tariff war with the United States of America, we are going to lose, and we are going to lose badly.
Yeah. Do you think, like, listening to Premier Smith talk about energy issues, she is someone who deeply understands the issue right down to where a specific pipeline feeds to and where it goes, where the feedstock goes and where the refined product goes, or at least the upgraded product goes. She understands the entire supply chain, upstream and downstream, on these pipelines. Do you think Melanie Joly even knows what Line 5 is, or Line 9, or when it was reversed, where it feeds to? She is running her mouth about stuff she doesn't understand, and her actions will devastate Ontario and Quebec. Can you imagine $2 a liter for gasoline in Ontario coming up because you don't have access to oil and gas through
Oh.
Line 9 and Line 5.
Well, first of all,
Where, by the way, where is Doug Ford on this? He
Yeah.
should be saying, oh my goodness, Melanie, my friend Melanie, shut your mouth, because you're going to cause economic devastation for the people of Ontario and Quebec. Where's the Quebec premier? Actually, he's not too bad on this issue, but where is he to say, the feds do not speak for us. They should not consider blocking energy exports to the United States because that will harm Quebecers. Where are these two premiers on this?
Well, first of all, Sheila, to answer your question, yes, I can imagine $2 a liter because we're
Oh, I
only about
guess.
40 cents away from it right now. Oh, yeah. And secondly, what you said about Danielle Smith knowing the nuance and the nitty gritty of where pipelines go, where they lead to, and does Melanie Joly have a scintilla of that knowledge? And this is a fantasy which will never be fulfilled, but wouldn't it be great if a mainstream media reporter put Melanie Joly on the spot and said, tell us about Line 5. Tell us about,
Show me Line 5 on a map if you wouldn't mind.
And wouldn't that be a very awkward moment? So bad it's good, but we'll never see the mainstream media ask those kind of questions, folks, because that's impolite. We don't want to embarrass blackfaces liberals, well, the ones that are still with the party and still intending to run, that is.
Let's go to one more clip on Danielle Smith, where she warns that tariffs are likely to start on January 20th. So in the olden days, Trump, as one of his first jobs in office, approved Canadian pipelines, was like, let's go, let's trade with our friends, the Canadians. This time, he's going to slap tariffs on us. Let's go to this clip.
I think we need to be prepared that tariffs are coming. That seems to me I think we've all seen the biggest irritant to the United States are trade deficits, which they believe they have. I don't actually believe they have a trade deficit. When you take out energy, we actually buy more goods and services from the US than they buy from us. I'm happy to make this national bank report available to anyone who wants it, that shows we actually have $58 billion in a trade deficit with the Americans when you take energy out. That's why I wanted to have the assurance that the Americans are interested in getting more of our oil and gas, because I think oil and gas is going to be key to being able to get a breakthrough once tariffs do come in getting them off. I think if we maintain a strong partnership on energy, we make the case about how much the Americans benefit from that energy relationship. We demonstrate that we are a good trade partner, that we buy more goods and services from America than any other nation, and that we do buy more goods and services when you take energy out. I think we can make that case, but I feel like from what I have seen, that it's not my decision to make on tariffs, but we do need to be preparing ourselves for the fact that they're likely to come in on January 20th.
Sheila, I mean, I want to defer to your knowledge because you live out in oil patch country and your husband is in the oil patch. What I would be concerned about if I was a premier of an energy province like Premier Smith is with Alberta is that we know in the first mandate of Donald Trump, for the first time in 70 years, he made the United States energy independent. In fact, it was exporting energy thanks to the miracle of fracking. So I'm just wondering, when Danielle Smith says $58 billion trade deficit with Americans once you take energy out of the equation, given that the fracking miracle, it's going to be pedal to the metal. Is that the wild card here in terms of the U.S. not needing Canadian oil and gas exports?
That I think is something that we will eventually have to deal with. And federal government with foresight would have been working on that for the last 10 years, the way Stephen Harper tried to do that before he was voted out of office. We had Northern Gateway, we had Energy East, Keystone XL. These were all pipelines that the Harper government was fighting for. It's also a reason why we should have listened to Japan when they pleaded for Canadian liquefied natural gas now twice. Instead, Justin Trudeau has told these countries that are coming to Canada saying, please, if you wouldn't mind, sell us all your bountiful natural gas so that we don't have to rely on Gazprom and fuel the Russian war machine. But he has said that there's no business case, if you can imagine that, for these trillion-dollar projects.
Yeah, trillion with a T. No business case. Maybe Justin Trudeau doesn't know what a trillion is. Well,
it's because the benefits of that business would land squarely in the laps of Westerners, and you just can't have that. So, but it is something that we will have to deal with. But for now, like I said, the Americans are buying Canadian oil and gas at a reduced price because we are in a monopoly with them. So we can't get world market prices for our oil and gas thanks to Justin Trudeau. So while it is a hindrance to Westerners, normally it is a good bargaining chip with the Americans that they can buy Canadian oil and gas for cheaper than what they can produce it there for themselves. But that will change, especially with a pro-energy president being sworn in on January 20th. So one of the first things that Pierre Poilievre has to do when he is thankfully, finally, Prime Minister is to get going on export pipelines to get us out of that monopoly with the Americans.
Okay. There you go. And I think at this point, we need to take an ad break, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do. The rest is just Danielle Smith warning us on tariffs and being reasonable. So we can go over those clips because she's just, you know what she's going to say. She's saying, get ready.
And by the way, Sheila, I must caution you on referring to Kevin O'Leary as Mr. Wonderful. For me, the only true bona fide Mr. Wonderful is Paul Orndorff, one of the combatants in the very first original WrestleMania. So, you know, I think Mr. Orndorff passed away. I stand to be corrected. I think he did.
I believe so.
Yeah. So let's leave him that nickname as an everlasting memory. And you're a wrestling fan. Can you see where I'm getting at with this, Sheila?
Yeah, we'll take it up with Kevin O'Leary. Anyways, we've got a message from our friends at Rumble. Olivia or Efron, do we have a Rebel News ad break after this, or you just want to keep cruising?
Rebel News ad break, please, Sheila.
Okay, so I'll read this message from our friends at Rumble. Do you enjoy the free speech that Rumble is protecting and fighting for? Our show on Rumble is only possible thanks to our viewers supporting Rumble's platform and by purchasing Rumble's many products. Most of you drink coffee every day. That's why you have to try Rumble's 1775 coffee. It's actually some of the best coffee, and it's the same price as the coffee you buy now, but it's way better. Why? Well, a couple of different reasons. Rumble's 1775 coffee is free from chemicals, rich in flavor. And that's because the beans are sourced from high altitude farms in Bolivia, handpicked, roasted weekly at their facility in Miami, and then delivered fresh to your doorstep. And as believers in freedom, buying from Rumble helps fight back against woke corporations like Starbucks and, unbelievably, Dunkin' Donuts. Join the coffee revolution and brew rebellion with Rumble 1775 coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com, use code STUDIO, and then get a free month's supply of their cognitive boosting supplement Limitless when you buy 2 bags of their coffee. I feel like I could use that today. I feel like I could scarcely read or formulate a sentence. Think about that. It's a crazy deal, and the supplement is worth more than 2 bags of coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com and try their amazing coffee. Okay, that's it.
Fantastic, Sheila. And I see kicking off segment 2. We have an MSNBC news.
We have a Rumble or a Rebel ad break, I thought.
Mea culpa.
Yeah, who needs the Limitless now? How did you forget that? It was like 30 seconds ago. Anyway.
Hi, everybody. As you know, every year we do a fundraiser for Rebel News that's super fun. It's a Rebel News cruise. We all go on a cruise ship together. We have dinner with each other. We have seminars when the ship's at sea, like Q&A sessions. And the rest of the time is your own. It's a vacation. It's a way to connect with other Rebel News enthusiasts. It's a way to check in with me and Sheila Gunn-Reid and Drea Humphrey and David Menzies. Tons of Rebels are on the trip. And at the end of the day, it's a way to keep Rebel News strong because there's a little extra added to the cost, which is how we float the boat here at Rebel News. It's a fundraiser. Here's the next Rebel News cruise in case you've always wanted to go on one. It sets sail out of Vancouver June 18th, 2025. It's a week-long, June 18th to 2025, and it's Vancouver to Alaska. So it's a lot easier to get to than a Caribbean cruise where you have to fly to Florida to set sail. Starts in Vancouver, where I'll greet you, Sheila, David, Alexa Lavoie, Drea Humphrey. It's a super fun trip. I've done it before. We go to Skagway, which is where the gold rush started. We go to Glacier National Park, which is as beautiful as it sounds. Go to rebelnewscruise.com to learn more, to check the pricing, and to book your cabin. Just let me rattle off some of the details of the places we're going. It's called the Alaska Inside Passage Cruise. If you know what that means, you go up right along the coast. It's on Holland America, so it's nice. It's the MS Zandam. That's the name of the ship. Obviously, we start off in Vancouver, next the Tracy Arm Inlet, then Juneau, the capital of Alaska, Skagway, by far my favorite city. It's amazing. Then Glacier Bay. Maybe the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. Back to Ketchikan and then down to Vancouver. If you like cruising, this is a super way to do it with fellow travelers, ideologically speaking. If you've never cruised before, this is a great way to start. And if you've been on Rebel News cruises, well, you don't want to miss this one. Again, for details, go to rebelnewscruise.com. It's next June, so just under a year away, but not too soon to order and to get the early bird discount. I'll see you at sea.
Justin Trudeau's new censorship law, Bill C-18. It's a shakedown and a desperate attempt to keep the mainstream media afloat. Many have already lost their ability to access our Facebook and Instagram pages. The blackout will soon affect every user in Canada. We've partnered with Private Internet Access, a VPN provider dedicated to safeguarding digital privacy. For just $2 a month, you can maintain your access to our content across all your devices at piavpn.com/rebelnews.
Well, Sheila, I can't wait for that cruise. How about you?
I could use a cruise right now.
I thought you were going to say something like that. So, Sheila, I see there's an MSN.
Wait, we've got a chat, and I during the break, I found some pictures to respond to the chat. So Aaron Burton, 32, regular viewer of the show, regular supporter of the work that we do here at Rebel News, gives us $5 and says, "Sorry, I've been meaning to tell you that your new studio looks awesome, Sheila. Thank you. Most of it is scavenged from around the farm. Wow. This is the strapping that in between a drilling rig pipe when they transport it. This is just the leftover stuff. Don't let anybody tell you that a conservative doesn't recycle. And the other question is also, how is your kitten? Well, Trigger is doing great. That's Trigger. I like to take pictures of him yawning because he looks like an alligator. And so I have another picture of Trigger also yawning, sleeping in his cat tree. And I put that in the chat, Efron. Just go up one. There he is, yawning again. And there's another picture of my daughter feeding him a little kitty popsicle. So he's doing great. He just likes to play. There he is. Look at him being cute, having a popsicle. Wow. He just is a little bit too in love with the keyboards in my office. So he has to stay out of here. Okay, that's it.
I think Trigger might be my second favorite cat name. So you've really sold me on that.
What's your first favorite cat name?
Oh, shame on you, Sheila. Jones, of course. Sigourney Weaver's cat in Alien.
Oh, I'm disappointed it wasn't the name of my other cat, Margaret Scratcher.
That's pretty good, actually.
All right.
Anyway. MSN BC News. Are they still around, Sheila? Anyways, we have a clip of Trudeau We're not making this up, folks. He says he outsmarted Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump. Check it out.
At our borders.
I'm assuming he didn't bring up his intention to publicly say he was going to annex through economic means your country.
It actually sort of came up at one point, and then we started musing back and forth about this. And when I started to suggest, well, maybe there could be a trade for Vermont or California for certain parts, he immediately decided that it was not that funny anymore, and we moved on to a different conversation. So this isn't out of the blue that he's doing this, but my focus has to be not on something that he's talking about that will not ever happen, but more on something that might well happen, that if he does choose to go forward with tariffs that raise the cost of just about everything for American citizens, that on top of that, we're going to have a robust response to that.
I want to ask you.
You know, Sheila, what does it say about our prime minister that of the 50 states in the union, the two that he mentions, well, one of the two that he would potentially trade for is on fire? I mean, what a wheeler and dealer, eh?
Yeah.
You want that
California
insurance liability, Justin Trudeau?
Vermont. Does he? I guess Bernie Sanders, is that who he's trading for? He wants to trade Danielle Smith for Bernie Sanders. Is that what he's doing?
All you need to know about Vermont, and if Mr. Producer, Super Producer Efren can find this and put it up later, is the logo for the Vermont Maple Syrup Producers Association. I'm not going to say anything. Efren will just put it on the screen, and I'll let our audience come to conclusions. But yeah, what do you make of Trudeau? I mean, first of all, why go on MSNBC? Why not go on Fox? I mean, the idea is to have an audience, right?
Right. And then not only that, to have an audience with Trump or his allies, right? Like, we know he watches Fox News. He hates MSNBC. Last week he went on CNN. Like, first of all, nobody watches that. That's the noise in the background of the doctor's office. But Trump that is seen as not even bothering to speak to the people that you're trying to speak to. And the idea that Trudeau outsmarted anybody ever at any point, I feel like, like my kitten gets tired of the laser pointer after a while. He figures out that it's me. I don't think Trudeau would get tired of the laser pointer. I feel like that's where his brain is at.
Yeah, it's a pretty, it's not a fair fight, is it? I mean, no. I can't think of any world leader where, blackface would triumph over via his intellect. But for Donald Trump, I mean, come on, that's an outrageous mismatch.
The guy who said he'll grow the economy from the heart outward, that he doesn't think about the economy or numbers or anything like that, claims that he has some sort of dyslexia that doesn't allow him to do any form of math. Now that I actually believe, and that he doesn't even read the headlines. Other people read them to him. He's going to outsmart Donald Trump, who gets up at like 4 a.m. and just starts consuming the entire internet. I don't believe it.
Well, when we speak of Trudeau, we must also speak of the co-prime minister. That would be Sellout Singh. And will you hear what Jagmeet had to say about Donald Trump and how, well, yeah, I know, shockers, how wrong he is to say it. Check it out, folks.
We know that the United States needs our critical minerals. They're very important for the United States. So I'm calling on all political leaders to support turning off the taps on those critical minerals. Let's stop the flow of those critical minerals into the States. There's no quicker way to get Donald Trump to back away from tariffs than to shut off the tap on critical minerals, what the states need very clearly. But what is the plan of the other leaders, the other political leaders? We know the Liberals are in disarray, but what about Pierre Poilievre? His plan is literally to do nothing at a time when Canadians are desperately worried about Donald Trump and the threat to Canada. And one more thing, for Donald Trump, musing about the 51st state, Canadians have no interest in that. Canadians are proud of our country. We want to fight to defend our country. We're proud of the fact that we take care of our neighbor, that we've got universal health care, and we want nothing to do with becoming a part of the United States. What's become clear is that meeting with Donald Trump does nothing. Ask Danielle Smith. She met with him. She tried to wine and dine him, and she came back and said, "Yep, there's definitely tariffs coming."
Yeah,
So
for
clearly
you.
that approach is not working.
Not us.
That
I mean, it's
approach
been one meeting, sir.
is
Like-
clearly failed with Donald Trump. That Donald Trump only understands one thing, and that is force. We have to show that if he's going to pick a fight with Canada, it's going to hurt Americans as well. That is the only thing that he understands.
But this has been like one.
Should she be turning the taps off on oil exports? Where are you on turning off the taps or restricting oil exports to the United States?
When I was in law school, I learned that when you're in a fight or when you're in a legal battle, you don't put out all your tools right at once. You escalate step by step. So that is a tool that should be on the table, but not something we start with. I'm proposing we start with critical minerals, but we need to look at every option. Every response to the tariffs that could hurt Canadians in a serious way should be met with tariffs in kind, and all solutions that we can propose should be on the table, and that's absolutely one of them.
There you go. Everything is on the table except my pension, folks. That's a sacred cow. But here's the thing. When he said, Sheila, Donald Trump only understands one thing, and that is force. When we go back to the first Trump presidency, far from being a hawk, that might have been one of the most dovish presidents of all time. There was no new conflict. There was no new war under Trump. Right. There was some selective assassinations of terrorists, which made the world a better place. But the idea that he's a warmonger, he is forceful, he's a bully, no, that's not what he showed in his first 4 years, right?
Right. And he will bend you to do whatever he wants, or at least what is in the best interest of Americans, through clever negotiations. We know that's how the Abraham Accords got done. He told the Gulf states the way to Washington and trade deals and diplomacy goes through Jerusalem. So figure it out, and we're here after that. So peace came about that way. Peace broke out in the Middle East, because of Donald Trump. But if the Liberals take advice from the leader of the Socialist Caucus of the Liberal Party of Canada, Jagmeet Singh, you Eastern bastards, to coin a phrase from Ralph Klein, are going to be freezing in the dark a lot sooner than you think.
Mm. No, it's just something else. Sheila, there's just so much to get to.
Let's get to Mark Holland, and then we'll do the Christy Clark nonsense. Oh, no. Mark Holland, who makes watching boring committee meetings exciting because he gets so heated and indignant that his stupid little bow tie is going to pop right off his neck, and his head's going to fly off like a dandelion. Anyways, he said there's no need for an election until October. So like I said last week, these Liberals are going to rag the puck as long as they can. And they're going to have the full cooperation with the NDP. They're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I think it's going to be a Mark Carney coronation. And Christy Clark is helping that along. But I think that's what's going to happen. These guys are going to dodge a confidence vote. The NDP are not going to help bring down the government. And it's going to be October. I'm sure of it. Anyways, let's listen.
You know, we elect Parliament for 4 years. Everybody's, let's have an election. Let's have an election. Why? Like every 4 years, you get an election.
What do you mean, why?
Democracy's not going anywhere, folks. Like there's going to be an election. But we got stuff we got to get done. And I certainly, if I was a constituent and somebody who cared about healthcare, I'd be talking to my MPs and say, like, really, you're going to cause an election in May or June instead of October because what? You think it's better? You might win more seats? Right? That's your calculus, that it's better for your party to have an election now? Like, we have a set election day. Shouldn't we use the set election day? Shouldn't we use the time we're given as parliamentarians to get things done? And I can tell you, if I'm given to October, I'll get all the pharmacare deals done. I believe that. Now, Jeremy's sitting next to me. He can disagree, and that'd be totally fair, right? Because I got work to do, and I don't want to put him in an awkward position. But I really believe in this. I don't believe in it because I'm a liberal. I believe in it because I'm a Canadian, because I think it's the right damn thing to do. And so I think having that time is important. And I'm hopeful that it's there, but I'll make use of any time I'm given.
Sheila, correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. I'm all for set election dates. Why did we go to the polls in 2021 again?
No. Wait, it's even better. Mr. I'm in favor of fixed election dates. We go to election every 4 years, okay? Why would you go to an election when it's good for your party to win more seats? That's exactly what he did in 2021. But this is the government that just moves the fixed election date by 1 week to make sure these jerks get their pensions. So, like, when they were moving the fixed election date and claiming that it was Diwali for the reason that they had to move it, then it was fine to move fixed election dates, but not now. But also he's signaling to the NDP, don't bring us down or you won't get your pharmacare deal. Because that is the only thing the NDP have been asking for, is this stupid national pharmacare deal. Yeah. And he's saying, don't bring us down or you're not going to get your pharmacare deal. It's going to die when you bring down the government because the Conservatives are not going to do this. So that was not a message for you and me and the rest of the Canadian voters. That was a message for Jagmeet Singh saying, fall in line, you'll get your pharmacare deal.
But I thought everything was on the table.
No, nothing.
Now, Sheila, here's something you don't see that often. The CBC destroying a would-be wannabe liberal, and such was the case with
not wannabe. She's definitely a liberal.
I'm talking about coming out of the abyss and back into current events. Yeah. So let's take a look at what happened on the table with this cooked goose.
Going to begin, though, with some developments on one of the big names that may be about to get into the Liberal leadership race, former British Columbia Premier Christy Clark. Now, one of the criticisms of Clark's potential leadership bid from other Liberals is that she joined the Conservatives to vote for Jean Charest in the leadership race won by Pierre Poilievre. Well, my colleague Catherine Cullen, the host of CBC's podcast, The House, asked Clark about this today, and Catherine joins me now. Catherine, what did Christy Clark say when you asked her about this?
Yeah, David, the discussion really took a bit of an interesting turn here. And just to make sure folks are following along with us, Christy Clark has described herself for years as a lifelong federal Liberal. When she was Premier of British Columbia, yes, she was a BC Liberal, but just so everyone understands, the BC Liberals not affiliated with the federal Liberals. They were a bit of a different political beast, a bit more to the right. And in order to vote in the Conservative leadership race, you have to renounce any other membership, right? You can't be a member of another party. So despite being lifelong, she couldn't have been a federal Liberal if she was voting in this race where she very publicly endorsed Jean Charest. So I had questions about how long this period of her life lasted. Let's listen to our exchange. You have called yourself a lifelong Liberal, but you voted in the last federal Conservative leadership race. That would have required you to cancel your Liberal Party membership in order to join the Conservative Party. How long were you a member of the Conservative Party, Christy Clark?
Never.
But you voted in the race, did you not?
No, I didn't. And I never got a membership. And I never got a ballot. What I did, though,
I will say, Christy Clark, we reached out to the Conservative Party, who told us, in fact, that your membership was canceled.
Oh, well, why don't they come out and show my membership or my ballot? They never sent me any of those, although I wouldn't put it past them to manufacture one of them.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Come out
good.
and show it in a second. But I also...
Okay, they'll show it.
She went on to say in the interview that she called the Conservative Party numerous times to ask where her ballot was. And I said, well, wouldn't you have to be a member in order to expect a ballot from them? I asked if she canceled her Liberal Party membership. She said no. Her team now says that she was, in fact, not a registered Liberal when she supported Jean Charest.
Okay. So
I think that's good. So Clark says, I was never a Conservative. Never. She, we're all hard of remembering when you endorsed Jean Charest, the actual Liberal who is running to lead the Conservatives. Then she said, well, why don't they produce my ballot? So Jenny Byrne actually produced the membership. And so Jenny Byrne is an advisor to Pierre Poilievre, a longtime Conservative organizer, campaigner, and they produced the ballot, and then so we're all supposed to believe that Christy Clark was never a member of the Conservatives. It was just a big blah blah blah. So here's the ballot, or this was her membership. Ms. Christine Joan Clark, Conservative membership. She bought it in, what is that? Is that June or January of 2022? Regardless, doesn't matter. June. And she had it for a full year. And then Clark goes on to do another audio interview where she's like, I was totally never a Conservative member, but they also wouldn't send me my ballot to vote. And it's like, so why would you be getting a ballot if you were also never a member? So first she says they would fabricate my membership. And then she says, well, they didn't send me a ballot. Well, why would you be expecting a ballot? Like, she's such a bad liar and such a flip-flopper. She would be the perfect leader of the Liberals.
No, but you know what, Sheila? I take the flip side. I would say, and as they say in defamation and libel trials, the truth is the best defense. Just be truthful, Miss Clark. And that would be to say, because look at the chronology, 2022, right? June 2022. Christy Clark is a person, if I believe her political sentiments, wants to bring the Liberal Party back to the center. Melanie Joly would put it way, way, way to the left. But right now, the Liberal Party and the NDP Party, Sheila, they're virtually indistinguishable. So what I would have said is, yes, because of the way Justin Trudeau has brought this party, because of how far left we become, because of how uber progressive we become, and look at the results, pretty bad. No one's better off 10 years since Justin Trudeau took the reins. That is what made me go to the Conservative Party. It was a hope to bring the country more to the center again. But now that there's an opportunity for me to do this as Liberal leader, I am back as a Liberal. There. Well, how could you criticize her for that? Instead, she's doing the Roger Clemens, I misremembered. I mean, are you kidding me? But don't you agree, Sheila? Wouldn't that be the way out of this quagmire for her?
She decided to double down, continue the lie, and just insult the intelligence of even the people who still remain listening to the CBC. Let's show this next clip from Jenny Byrne.
So I have a statement from the Director of Communications from the Conservative Party of Canada that they sent to the CBC on Thursday. Christy Clark purchased a Conservative Party membership through Jean Charest's leadership campaign. That membership is no longer active. You're saying the Conservative Party is lying about you.
I actually went and asked the Conservatives multiple times why they did not send me a ballot before the voting day. And nobody ever got back to me. I mean, I didn't get a membership.
But if you expected a ballot, then you would have had to be a member.
Right. Well, if I had gotten a ballot, I probably would have been a member.
But it doesn't work. You have to sign up to be a member in order to get a ballot, though.
Exactly, and I didn't.
And you never canceled your Liberal Party membership at any time, which the Conservative Party would have required of you to become a member of that party.
Nope, I did not. Did not cancel my membership. But, I mean, these are the kinds of games the Conservatives are going to play.
I will say.
Okay, who? What? Who's playing the games, lady?
You know what, Sheila, this reminds me of? It's a bit of a bizarre example, I suppose, but there's a brilliant, the TV series Batman from the late 60s. There's a brilliant episode where Batman is running against the Penguin for mayor of Gotham City. And one of the Penguin smear campaigns is showing all these photographs. Look at the Batman. He's always hanging around supervillains, Catwoman, Joker, Riddler, Mr. Freeze. Look at me. I'm always hanging around the police. Well, yeah, that's because you're being arrested and it's Batman going after the bad guys. That's the kind of convoluted logic Christy Clark is using with this ballot and membership business.
Yeah. She's like, I kept calling and asking for my ballot. And they're like, that would mean that you're a member. Well, yeah. And this is my problem with Christy Clark, is she will say and do whatever is necessary for her to be near the levers of power, right? Like a normal Liberal who had any sort of integrity, and I'm not sure you can find many of those these days, would have tried to change the Liberal Party for the good. I mean, that's what Conservatives did, right? They're like, Erin O'Toole is a crazy person. He's a Liberal light. So we need to change the party and make it more conservative and get rid of him and work really hard to build a party that's better. And Conservatives did that. But people like Christy Clark decided that no, it's a lot easier to be an interloper and an underminer in the other party than stay and try and fix my own. And she doesn't, like I said, she doesn't actually believe in anything. She went from being the biggest cheerleader for the carbon tax in the entire country. In fact, criticizing Justin Trudeau because his carbon tax didn't go as far as hers did when she was Premier of BC, to, oh God, we can't have a carbon tax. We got to get rid of that thing. It's crushing people. And it's like, where do you think Justin Trudeau got the bad idea for a carbon tax, except from you, Christy Clark? All you know how to do is flip-flop and lie. And we could not have seen that any more clearly than the last 72 hours in Christy Clark imploding her attempts to run for the Liberal Party leadership.
Well, gracious, Sheila, from what you just said, you're making the case for Christy Clark to be the female version of Patrick Brown.
Oh, goodness. Completely. I think we have, speaking of Andrew Scheer. No, actually, like Andrew Scheer again. Aaron O'Toole. I like it. He's a great MP. He's awesome. He's excellent at committee.
Aaron O'Toole. Oh, what are you going to say now, Sheila? Was it a mistake to get rid of Aaron O'Toole as leader of the Conservative?
No, I should have thank a trucker after you see what he did over the weekend with Anita Anand. I think we should close on that. I'll do this Rumble ad read. And then they dug up the maple syrup people, their ad or their logo. We'll show that.
I just want super producer Efren to put it on the screen. You try to convince me this is not the worst logo in the history
or
of
the
logos.
Best. Okay, I'll do the ad read first and then we'll show that. Okay. So it's from Truth Social. Goodness gracious. If you're looking for a great place online, I gotta zoom it up. I can't read. I don't have my glasses on. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, and where you'll get Donald Trump trolling Justin Trudeau first, then check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news, stories, and commentary from top media figures. If you want to see Trump's legendary, and they are, Truth Social posts, then get on Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. Okie doke. Do we want to show the maple syrup producers of Vermont's logo?
Yes, we do. Well, no, we don't. But and by the way, I beg of you, the censors at YouTube, this is not any kind of pornography. This is an actual existing logo. Sheila, how did this get off the drawing room table?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. That is something else.
I mean,
like if I look at that, I don't know what they're selling to me unless it's if it didn't say maple syrup, I would think that they were selling me something much, much different.
All I know is that I don't want that on my pancakes.
Goodness gracious. You know, David, I thought we were going to get through that. I thought we were going to get through it. I thought you would behave. I thought you would just let
what am I saying?
People come to their own conclusions, but no. Okay, AMT60 gives us $5 and says, do you think that the globalists will start a bird flu pandemic this year? Look what happened when Trump took office in 2020. He will take office soon, and there are reports of bird flu in China and others. I think they're going to try, but I think they've got to come up with something else because people are over pandemics.
Sheila, I have the solution. If we have bird flu, we got to kill the birds. I mean, and
I'm not bad about that.
Hey, really, because it's not that we don't have things that fly. We have bats, we have flying squirrels, we have some insects, so you'll still see flying things, folks. We just got to get rid of the birds. I'd rather kill all the birds than put the economy into a COVID-19 style shutdown. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Until your nuggets go up in price and then you're like, save the birds. Save the birds.
I beg
your
pardon.
nuggets. I know. We got to get off this live stream. Things are devolving fast. Okay, let's go to Aaron O'Toole.
Oh no!
Please.
From nuggets to O'Toole, fire away.
Yeah. Speaking of no nuggets, I knew you'd like that, David. Okay, so Aaron O'Toole, former leader of the Conservative Party. Former member of Canada's military, in fact. Anita Anand is deciding that she is not going to run for the Liberal Party leadership. So, is David dying?
Sorry.
Oh, goodness. Can we cut David's mic so we don't have to hear him retching for life? Are you okay?
Okay. It's one of those, the Danny Thomas line, my uncle from Cleveland's in town, where, in the midst of a sip and just hearing you read O'Toole's tweet again, it just triggered me all over again. I apologize to you, Sheila and Efren and our viewers, but continue,
okay.
Khaleesi.
It gives me a little bit of a touch of the dry heave too. So she's decided that she is not going to run for the Liberal Party leadership. They're all doing this sort of performative nonsense where they're saying that they have discussed a potential leadership run with their friends and their allies and their supporters, but they have decided that it is just going to be just too much of a burden on them, and they would like to thank you for the support that you actually didn't give them, their imaginary support. And so they're all issuing these very bizarre letters. Now, Anand was, of course, at Defense, and Aaron O'Toole weighs in and says, I saw the dedication that Anita Anand brought to national defense at a time when it was desperately needed. She cared deeply about the CAF, their families, and the need for Canada to do more. I wish her fair winds and following seas. What the heck is he talking about? She gave the military a crisis of recruitment, a crisis of retention, and tampons in the men's room. That's what she did. She gave us soldiers using food banks. That's what she did. So she might have cared deeply, but I don't think she did a damn thing for the military. And she was part of the current decade of darkness that's happening in the Canadian military. It's just a disgrace that Aaron O'Toole would say those sorts of things.
So, Sheila, the question arises then, is Aaron O'Toole a closet woke liberal, or is he mentally ill? I don't know. I mean, I think back, was it last January or the one before, the very first essay he put out there, which had him mocked savagely, was he was campaigning against those F Trudeau flags. Yeah, you know what? Because even though the whole country has, well, I won't go there, but has been hard done by, shall we say, Justin Trudeau, Aaron O'Toole thought this was a little vulgar, this was a little too risque. I mean, what was this guy doing in the Conservative Party in the first place?
Like I said, if you are happy that Aaron O'Toole is no longer leading the Conservative Party of Canada, stop a trucker today and thank them. Because if it were not for the Freedom Convoy and Aaron O'Toole's inability to see that the parade was marching and jump in front of it and lead it, he would still be the leader, and Justin Trudeau would still be miles high in the polls, because the Conservatives were not bringing something decent to the table as an alternative. So thank you, Trucker, for Pierre Poilievre.
That is an excellent point, and it is my rebuttal to those lefties that say, oh, you and your so-called freedom convoy, they always put it in air quotes, 3 weeks of making our life miserable in Ottawa, and what did you accomplish? What did you accomplish? And I go, what you just said. We took out the fake trash. We took out Aaron O'Toole, the fake conservative, the real dyed-in-the-wool woke liberal. That happened exactly like you said, because of his despicable performance in trying to have it both ways. So yeah, that is at least one tangible thing that happened. And you know what?
It's no small thing.
It's no small thing. And if that's the only thing, it was worth it.
Well, thread the needle.
Yeah.
Convoy gets rid of Aaron O'Toole. That gives us Pierre Poilievre. Yep. Poilievre actually is a conservative alternative to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Poilievre does this in the polls. Trudeau does this. Trudeau resigns. You can thread the needle all the way back to the Freedom Convoy. All the way back.
And Sheila, let us never forget, instead of going out on a path of glory, he meandered down a cobblestone road of, well, I guess, decrepitude, with Aaron O'Toole going to the House to his fellow Conservatives. I'll be what you want me to be. Just give me another chance, man. Please. I couldn't even bear to watch it. It was so awkward.
Also, I have another big problem with Aaron O'Toole, and that's who he decides to talk to.
Yeah.
He will not talk to conservative independent media. He would sooner have them arrested, much like a Liberal. He will go on the podcast of Nate Erskine Smith, the vegan behind the pandemic bill, before he would talk to anybody from Rebel News. It's an absolute disgrace. That guy deserves to be in the dustbin of history, and he's putting himself there.
But wait 1 second, Sheila. You forgot something. It's the chronology. He was more than happy to speak to Rebel News and take part in the independent press gallery debate. Remember that? When he wasn't yet the leader. But once he became the leader, the mask came off.
Yeah, Andrew Scheer was a little bit like that too. I should tell you that Aaron O'Toole is getting roasted by even Conservative Party members. So I know Jenny Byrne just absolutely roasted him for that. She's been great lately. I love her during the campaign period. She is just fierce and funny. But Todd Doherty, Conservative MP, he's really good on the issue of addictions and drug treatment. He's the Conservative MP for Caribou Prince George, one of the most conservative places in the country. This is so funny. He says, like Christy Clark, Aaron O'Toole also bought a Conservative Party membership and pretended to be a conservative. Just stop. And they sat in caucus together. So that's beautiful. Good job, Todd.
Wow. Et tu, Brute.
Ew, good. Just Todd, if you're watching, amazing.
Well, Sheila, that was more than an hour. It was an hour and 15. Before we wrap things up, do we have any super chats?
I think that's it on my side, unless Efron or Olivia has anything that they need to drop in the chat.
No chats. Okay. Well, Sheila, that was a really fun-filled, action-packed show, and thank you so much. And thank you to our audience, and especially those who chipped in. We greatly appreciate that. Sheila and myself, we will be back here on Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, folks, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
So yeah, this is definitely going to affect my sentencing after seeing some of the submissions that were not accepted from counsel from Marco van Hugenbos, Brendan Miller, with bringing that law of equality in with Roe versus Adams. I was hoping he would accept that and use that in his sentencing. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to use as well, or one of the submissions I wanted to use. But it's not justice. Justice wasn't served, right? I mean, to some degree it was, but it's sad that if you don't show remorse, that you get a steeper sentence. And to me, that's not justice. That's not fair. And I feel that a fair justice system should hold, regardless of remorse or ideology, and one that's more convicted in what he did, shouldn't reflect on the sentence. But obviously it showed today that the only difference, because he put George and Marco on the same level playing field, but George showed remorse for what he did. Well, he didn't really truly show remorse of the action, but he showed remorse to the people of Coutts, the inconvenience of it. And I guess, yeah, it's a hard thing to swallow now, is to say, what is the right thing to do for me? How do I go forward? I mean, do I feel remorseful of the inconvenience of people? Yeah. But how about the inconvenience that the mandates were doing on us? When are they going to look at them actions? When are they going to talk about that? When are them guys going to be held to account for the actions that led good people to Coutts and Ottawa? And that's the part that probably bothers me the most. There's accountability held today here. And I'm proud of Marco for being able to hold his head up high, and he was not remorseful of what he did, and he shouldn't have to be. When there's a tyrannical government acting, what other avenues of democracy wasn't being used anymore. Our charter rights were being stepped on. Our constitution was being trampled on. So when the judge says we need to use democratic process with sending letters, trust me, I did for months and months. I protested. I walked streets. I held banners. I wrote letters. I didn't get responses from MLAs. So when they blocked the border to our pre-movement to go to the US or into restaurants or swimming pools or anything, then what are citizens supposed to do? I mean, we have a charter that we thought, I was taught in school that supported us and protected us. But when that charter was being trampled on, what other means do we have to use? So it's sad that just people have to do unjust things to get justice. And I truly believe with what happened in Coutts and in Ottawa, the mandates were lifted. So I think it was definitely a positive outcome overall. It's sad that my co-accused has to spend 4 months in jail for it. And I have no idea what I'm up against yet. I guess mine will be in March, but it's a sad day in Alberta.
Marco got sentenced to 120 days in jail, and George got sentenced to 90 days conditional with some conditions. He does have a family with 8 children. The judge took that into high consideration, that he still provides for his family. So the conditions that he received still allow him to work and live somewhat of a normal life. They are restrictive conditions, which I believe are a little extreme, but at the same sense, he's not in jail, so that's a plus. Marco got sentenced to 120 days in prison. I think that's a little extreme, considering there was about 26,000 of us that went down to Coutts and Milk River, and as far as I'm concerned, we all blockaded the highway, not just 3 people. So we all knew coming into this that there was going to be a sentence. They were convicted. There wasn't much we could do about that besides appealing it. I'm not sure the boys are going to appeal or not. And so the Crown was seeking 9 months for Marco, 6 months for George. They got less than half. I believe the judge did a good job in the process. Johnson did get shut down quite a bit during the sentencing. So I know a lot of people are sad. I'm going to take this as somewhat of a win. It's not a huge win. It's not what we wanted. But that's about what I can say in the process.
I'm really glad for the results. I do appreciate the judge for being merciful on my behalf. I mean, obviously, a complete discharge would have been better, but a conditional discharge is definitely good as well. Definitely am thankful for sure. Thank you, Sid.